In the news tonight, COVID cases shock Korovo residents. Landowners approve Coral Coast quarantine facilities. And quarantine requirements for domestic movement.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Edwin Nana.
Bulunaka, Fiji. People in Korovo are fearful now following the confirmation of 4 COVID-19 cases. Resident Simi Roko says a town that was bustling with farmers and traders is now filled with the sound of police sirens. Sanyani Mboila reports.
Korovo town is eerily quiet as residents stay indoors to avoid an exposure to COVID-19.
I was doing my shopping when I saw the whole place in Machi being cordoned off. We can also see that the police patrols here and there. Machi is where most government officials reside. This is something that, is new to us, especially villagers living around this area. We can feel that the virus is here. So for me and my family, it's safe that we stay home.
Londoni village resident Tiana Paulini says they have been told that mothers and children are not allowed to go to Korovo town for their safety.
We have been told not to go to Korovo. Only the fathers can go and do the shopping. This is because of the 4 cases in Korovo town. We are even afraid to leave our homes.
Korovo town is the only shopping center that caters for villagers in Tailevu North, including the Notovi Jetty and the Nayavo government station in Wainimbuka. A lot of people were doing last-minute shopping yesterday before movement restrictions kicked in. Sanyani Mboila, FBC News.
And we now join Sanyani live. Sanyani, what restrictions are in effect in Korovo?
Edwin, the area where the 4 cases are located has been cordoned off. A handful of government quarters have been cordoned off for the next 14 days. Movement in and around town is still allowed, but only for genuine reasons, such as shopping, getting medical supplies, or seeing a doctor. Otherwise, people living in and around Korovo have been urged to stay indoors to keep safe. Korovo town is a shopping center for most farmers in Tailevu North, including villages in Wainimbuka, and most villagers, especially children and mothers, have been urged to refrain from coming to town. Also, Edwin, more villages in Tailevu North have started to strengthen their lockdown measures, not allowing visitors for the time being. Edwin.
Naka Sanyani. Meanwhile, the 4 new cases in Korovo has prompted Longani village to consolidate lockdown measures. Torangani Koro Peningande says the risk of villagers contracting the virus is high since they are at the containment border and there is a lot of movement and exchanges between people. Details with Josiah Nanunga.
Tight security and surveillance at the border. These Longani villages are also on high alert following a surge in cases in the Central Division.
We have doubled up our COVID community response team. The risk is there and we will not let our guard down in protecting our village from the killer virus.
With some Fijians still procrastinating the vaccination drive by the Health Ministry, the Turangani Koro of Dole Subu village is encouraging Fijians who are above the age of 18 to get vaccinated, as it is an effective measure to contain the spread of COVID-19.
I urge Fijians not to listen to rumors about the vaccine. We need to support the Health Ministry's effort. We are in this together and hopefully life goes back to normal soon.
Cases emerging from Tadirua and this forestry training center being one of the isolation facilities have posed a major risk to the residents of Natangiri.
With cases confirmed from neighboring areas, the chances of residents here contracting the virus is also high. That's why we impose stringent lockdown measures to protect our community.
Here at the Longani border, a spot that closes off the Suvarnosori containment zone on your way towards Korovo. Health officials, military personnel, police officers are working around the clock to ensure that delivery trucks that are passing through and exchanges are done in accordance with the COVID-19 safety protocols. Josiah Nanunga, FBC News.
The chief of a landowning unit in the Nanronga Navosa province has supported Blue West Villas being used as a quarantine facility tui Ndavutukia Korolevo Iwai Ratu Emosi Mburuvatu, while backing the government initiative, is also concerned with false information being spread among villagers. Details with Felipe Naikaso.
Ratu Emosi Mburuvatu is pleased with how Blue West Villas will operate as a quarantine facility, adding that this time the Ministry of Health needs assistance because the primary contacts who will be brought to Singatoka are our own people.
I know some people are not one with this, but I have been assured that there will be lots of doctors and soldiers to look after the place, which will keep the province safe, so villagers should have faith.
A lot of misinformation on the quarantine facilities were also fed to villagers in the Coral Coast over the past few days.
What we heard a few days back was that COVID patients will be brought here to Singatoka, which were found out later to be rumors being spread to mislead us.
A team from the Ministry of Health, RFMF personnel and representatives from the district office have been going out to villages, clarifying their concerns.
And then it was really good for the guys to come and personally see themselves exactly what the setup is to make sure that that they felt safe.
The Turanganatui Wusu and a few other village headmen conducted a site inspection of the Blue West Village today. They've also given their approval and acceptance. Felipe Naikaso, FBC News.
And we now join Felipe, who is in Singatoka, closely following the story. Felipe, Sodelpa MP Inosi Kurindrani has been publicly supporting the protest in the Coral Coast.
Yes, Edwin, Inosi Kurindrani, who is from Namatakula in Nanronga, went live a few days ago showing his disagreement with government's partnership with two resorts here in Singatoka to house primary COVID-19 contacts. When we contacted him yesterday, Kurindrani stated that he was part of the protest on Monday, but it was his capacity as a villager of Namatakula and not as an MP. However, when we asked him the reasons for going live on his political page on Facebook, Kurindrani stated that he wanted to send the message out to more people and also especially to his followers. He also claims that he did not stir up the protest, but it was the decision of the villagers. Edwin, today we also asked him to do an on-camera interview as we wanted to ask him a few more questions. However, the Sodelpa MP refused to come on camera and answer the questions, as he also stated again that he was just an ordinary member of a villager of Namatakula who was just showing his support.
Naka Felipe. Now, Fiji's daily COVID-19 cases have soared to the highest daily total since the Delta variant was discovered in mid-April, with the daily number of cases hitting triple digits for the second time this week. The Ministry of Health stresses this was not unexpected and daily numbers are likely to peak higher. 160 new infections were recorded as of last night, with Fiji recording its third death from the second wave. Ritika Pratap reports.
The virus has now spread to all districts in Vitilevu apart from Singatoka and Ba. Korovou town in Tailevu has become the latest town to register 4 COVID cases. The latest COVID-19 victim is a 73-year-old patient who died at the CWM hospital. The patient had been admitted at the hospital for almost a month for a severe non-COVID-related illness and tested positive 11 days ago. While his prognosis was poor, doctors treating him have classified his death as COVID-19 related. This is the third death due to COVID-19 during the current outbreak and the 5th overall for Fiji. There are 13 cases which are still under investigation to determine whether they have links to other cases. All are from the Lami Nosori containment zone. The ministry is also investigating 3 cases that were swabbed at Valilevu and Raiwanga screening clinics. A total of 7 COVID-19 positive patients have died from pre-existing conditions which are not related to the virus. Ritika Pratap, FBC News.
And with 116 new cases recorded overnight, the majority of the new infections are in the Central Division. There were 83 new cases recorded between the Lami to Nosori containment zone, There are currently 13 clusters in this area. Korovo, with its first 4 confirmed cases, has 1 cluster, while Nandi, with 2 clusters in Nawachikuma and Tramline in Nawaka, has 8 new cases. Fiji has had a total of 1,322 cases since March 2020. There are currently 943 active cases with 367 recoveries in total. The COVID death toll stands at 5. Up ahead, Tadirua community adopts COVID-safe measures and food packs for Hart residents. Welcome back. The Ministry of Transport is looking for quarantine sites for people wanting to move from red to green zones. 14 days quarantine is a must before the ministry can finalize domestic movement. Permanent Secretary Shaheen Ali says this is part of protocols to facilitate travel between Viti Levu and Maritime Islands. Kritika Kumar reports.
It's a matter of getting stakeholders together to ensure all the arrangements on the ground are ready.
Because if they're leaving from Suva, we may need to think about quarantine facilities here rather than in the islands where there's less supervision from Ministry of Health and Resources.
The ministry has reiterated that the move is for permanent relocation only. Ali says due to high demand, they are looking at protocols for short economic movement.
They may have a construction company and they may need to be on site in another zone. And they may need to complete that job for, say, a couple of weeks and then come back. So we are looking at protocols for that also.
All protocols need to be activated before preparations are finalized. Movement between zones is complex and requirements continue to increase.
The ministry with MCTTT, Ministry of Maritime and Rural Affairs, and Ministry of Itauke Affairs have put together a number of protocols to ensure that protocols of safe travel, including a safe 14 days of quarantine, are fully adhered to.
Dr. Fong had earlier highlighted that movement will be carried out under strict protocols. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
The close proximity of houses in settlements across the country is part of the reason Fiji is recording high COVID cases daily. Adhering to protocols will help safeguard families in these communities. Christiana Uluwai visited some such communities and files this report.
More than 23 households living in Vunimoli and Vunichina settlement in Tavirua are taking on the responsibility to protect themselves from COVID-19.
As you can see, we have a tent here where we monitor people's movement in and out of our settlement. We take the details and keep it for our record.
Ria Isabel is urging young people to avoid roaming around with no valid reason, as they are not highly at risk.
They should stay with their families, their loved ones, so they could not spread the virus around the community.
When it comes to COVID, safety is everyone's responsibility. Now, the Health Ministry has established that part of the reason we're recording high number of positive cases on a daily basis is because of the close proximity of households within our communities. Now, this settlement here in Tadirua are leaving no stones unturned and are strictly monitoring the movements of people within their own community. Christiana Uluwai, FBC News.
The COVID-19 pandemic continues to bring out the best in Fijians, helping vulnerable communities. Residents in Nakasi Hart Homes received food rations from a group representing Balgovin Road in Nandawa, Nasinu. Apanisa Wangairandevu reports the group helped over 300 families since the second wave of the pandemic.
Meeting and listening to stories from people kept these Nandawa residents pursued to supporting more needy families.
The emotions that people express, the stories that they share with us keep us going. And once we complete one phase, we approach more people, we share their stories, we share pictures with them, and then we tell them that there are people out here who need assistance.
The Nambua secondary school teacher and his team delivered 35 food packs today with hopes of more support to come.
Through the stories that we share on Facebook, we have more people who send us messages that they need assistance. And then those messages we relay to our friends who are overseas and who are also in Vanuatu who want to assist.
Community leader Anareta Tuiloma says the assistance is making live another day without going hungry.
The majority of our community members have been relieved from their work, and this help meant a lot to us. The people here are living with the little we have, and we are sharing.
My cupboard has never gone empty because of the support we have been receiving. And now it's like a shop, but we look out for one another here.
The group have covered almost all the huts in the Central Division and has even assisted Fijians affected by the recent cyclones in the north. Lingam says, seeing the struggle, he knew that as a responsible citizen, he has a duty to help fellow Fijians. Apinisong Ndowu, FBC News.
The Fisheries Ministry has clarified people outside red zones can continue fishing without a pass but need to practice COVID-safe measures. Minister Semi Koroilavisau says there was confusion among those outside of Viti Levu regarding the restriction of movement into certain fishing grounds. Kelly Vadala reports.
In recent weeks, the Fisheries Ministry had been receiving requests from people in maritime islands wanting to go out to sea.
We sent and asked for clarification. Then it started off the maritime islands and areas after the red zone were given permission for them to go and fish on subsistence just for 3 miles off from their coastal areas.
The minister says they understand people in maritime zones depend on the ocean.
That a lot of fishermen were being deprived of their income generation that they normally do, and then it was opened up.
Acting Permanent Secretary Penny Mbalena-Mbuli is urging all fishermen with or without a pass to adhere to COVID protocols.
Fishing is allowed within the containment zone and between containment and non-containment areas, provided the fishers depart and land their boat in their own containment zone and do not have any contact with other fishers.
The Fisheries Ministry has issued over 40 COVID fishing passes for both subsistence and commercial purposes to ensure fisher folks meet their food security and economic needs. Kelly Vatalo, FBC News.
And later in sports, vaccination a must for Team Fiji to Tokyo.
The hardships caused by the global pandemic has hindered the daily income of local music artists and vendors at the Rock Market. As the world continues to adapt to the new normal, the Rock Market will now be held virtually to assist these vendors. Joshua reports 120 of these vendors and musicians depended entirely on their businesses to support families.
These entrepreneurs' livelihoods have been affected due to a decline in sales with the restrictions put in place.
The music world depends on public gathering, which is banned at the moment. So those musicians have gone without income for 10 weeks now, and we believe that together we can all help and provide the staple food items for the family.
At the height of the pandemic, the flow of these businesses slowed down to a halt. However, families are being assisted with grocery and dignity packs.
We've kind of lost out on our earnings as it is a major chunk of our income, and we find it really challenging.
With the Rock Market, we'll be looking at somehow hosting virtual markets until we can have public gatherings, because again, those people rely on gatherings for us to run markets. All of those people are now without income.
GoFundMe page has also been set up to assist struggling households. Jeshulal, FBC News.
Here the local exchange rates are set early this morning. The Fiji dollar was pegged higher against our two major trading partners, the Aussie and Kiwi dollars today, but lost ground versus the other international currencies we cover. Commodities market was mixed today. Crude oil rose, closing at just over $72 a barrel. Gold dropped a few dollars to close at $1,855 per ounce, and silver was down at $27.80 per ounce. And we now join Sanifa from HFC Bank to give us the latest figures from the money market.
Good evening. The US dollar held near a one-month high against a basket of currencies today. Investors tried to ascertain if the Federal Reserve might alter the language on its stimulus following a recent jump in US inflation. Meanwhile, in a separate release, their retail sales fell 1.3% last month. However, data for April was revised higher to show sales increasing 0.9% instead of being unchanged as previously reported. All eyes are now on the U.S. Federal Reserve, which concludes its two-day policy meeting this evening. This will be followed by the interest rate decision announcement and with a news conference from Federal Chair Jerome Powell. Elsewhere, the euro was little changed but is struggling to recover from its fall last week. The yen was generally flat, with Bank of Japan expected to extend some of its pandemic relief measures this week. And closer to home, the Aussie dollar lacked traction after the country's central bank signaled its intentions to extend its bond purchase program next month. That's all from your HFC Bank, Vinaka.
Australia has extended a grant of $19.7 million to boost Fiji's cyclone recovery program. This will focus on the rehabilitation of school buildings damaged by tropical cyclone Yasa. This follows the signing of a direct funding arrangement between the Fijian and the Australian governments last week, which should see the funds being utilized over the next 3 fiscal periods. The past few months have been very challenging for Fiji, with being hit by 2 tropical cyclones and a massive second wave of COVID-19. The Australian government will be funding the rehabilitation and reconstruction of 9 schools in the Northern Division. Minister Rosie Akbar says the need to provide safe learning environment for all kids is paramount.
Almost all these schools now have been sort of quickly fixed to ensure that children, when they return to school, go back to conducive learning environments while the rebuilding of new schools will take place.
And that is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, Boer youth turn to farming for food security. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Natural disasters have caused food insecurities in many households in the Northern Division. In one village in Boa, youth have started a farming scheme to see that each household has enough fresh and healthy food daily. Eleanor Turangaiviu has more.
They start the day with a prayer before embarking on the huge task ahead, clearing land and planting root crops.
Each day we work on the farm for one family, so we plant root crops for each child in the family.
These youth of Ndalomo village in Boa have experienced food insecurity. Their solution? A farming scheme that will benefit all 15 families in the village.
If there are 3 children in the family, we plant 250 cassava on dalo tops for each child. We also plant vegetables.
When FBC News visited the group in the farm, they were clearing land and ready to plant cassava tops for the 14th family.
Each of the families have to provide their own cassava on dalo tops.
I am very happy that the youth group is doing this farming scheme which will ensure our food security.
The youth group has also mapped out other plans.
After planting for the families, we will then plant Yangona and Ndalo for the youth group, but we do not have enough equipment to help us in our scheme.
The farms, which are located several kilometers away from the village, will ensure the families are food secure in the months and years to come. Eleanor Turangaiviu, FBC News.
The second wave of COVID-19 has hit local artists, but this hasn't stopped some from working to inspire up-and-coming singers. Well-known figures in the entertainment industry, Michelle Tevita Singh and Stage Tech Director Jerry Vatuanga, have launched a virtual platform to assist young artists to continue what they love to do. Lina Rees has more.
Local artists William and Navoka, better known by his stage name Villy, and Phil Ndake are also part of the initiative that enables local singers to showcase their talent even during a pandemic.
The advantage of having this virtually done is that we overcome the graphic situation where we can have people from Ba and Nandi all participate and not having to come over, especially with all these border restrictions that we have.
I'm so happy to see people engaging, with the competition and getting involved and getting support, because I think that was one of the things that we really wanted, is to have people not only participate in the actual competition, but participate by sharing and, spreading the word, hopefully through music, spreading the love as well.
Artists believe this is something that can continue to build the local music industry and develop young talent.
As much as COVID has a lot of negativity around it, I feel like this was the blessing and the advantage of having COVID. Is like people had to get out of their comfort zone, get out of the box, and think out of the box in terms of how can you get creative and at the same time still make money. So people kind of relied on online platforms.
The virtual singing competition has generated a lot of attention from other local artists, established singers, and the public, as organizers now work on deciding who makes it to the top 5 spots. Lena Reese, FBC News.
And many working mothers are still finding it difficult to adapt to the new work-from-home environment. For some, it comes with new challenges, including maintaining productivity levels, headspace, and avoiding distractions. Kelly Vadala reports.
Work-life balance struggles could intensify as we learn to adapt to the new normal.
Setting aside some time, very busy with their own children, their own work that they're trying to juggle, homeschooling, everything, families and whatnot, but they're always reaching out in our groups.
In an effort to ensure work is adequately managed, members of Women Graduate communicate daily through online platforms.
There is a sisterhood available to them, if only they decide to reach out to others like themselves. They don't realize how similar we are.
Mother to Roshika Ram says while working from home has its benefits, essential boundaries need to be set.
Both of them are at home, and it is pretty challenging to keep them busy while I'm also working from home, since my working hours is 8 to 5.
Although COVID has had a significant impact on our work-life balance and created new challenges not previously experienced, we can still take steps to retain a positive work-life balance. Kelly Vathala, FBC News.
And all your latest Euro 2020 action and more in sports.
Yunakan, good evening. Ahead in sports, Olympics priority for Wainingolo. And vaccination a must for Team Fiji. This and more coming up. The Olympics is still top priority for National 7 squad member Tuta Wainingolo, even after recently securing a 3-year deal with French-based club Toulon. Getting a contract in France for many rugby players is a milestone achievement, but the 22-year-old remains steadfast in his goal to help the Fiji Sevens team bring back gold from Tokyo, Japan. Karlaini Tavi has more.
The youngster has represented Fiji on many occasions on the world stage and will be out to create his own legacy in France.
So for me it's creating a name and a legacy for myself, and I will also be more able to help provide for my family back home. But right now my job is to help Fiji win the second Olympic back-to-back.
Since joining the Sevens team last year, Wainingolo has grown in terms of fitness and will use this to his advantage when changing codes.
My transition to Sevens made me instantly have to adapt my fitness levels to a high enough degree to have a positive effect in a 40-minute game, as I need to have a positive effect in an 80-minute game.
Every player in the Flying Fijians will be assessed after quarantine before the team begins preparations to play the All Blacks.
They are all cleared and have negative test, and the plan is that they will fly out on Saturday and join the team in quarantine on Saturday afternoon.
Flying Fijians winger Ronnie Sau has officially signed a 2-year deal with French Pro D2 club Provence Rugby. Team Fiji athletes and staff will be fully vaccinated before they leave for the Tokyo Olympic Games next month. Head of Delegation Patrick Bawa has confirmed to FBC News that all athletes, whether in the country or out, will have to go through their second dose before arriving in Japan. Venina Rakautonga has more.
While competing at the Olympic Games is highly anticipated, health and safety must come first for Team Fiji.
All the admin and some who are here who had the first vaccination, because most of the athletes are in Australia, some of them are there, well, the bulk of them, and they will get their vaccination in Australia before arriving back in Fiji.
Bawa says they are in touch with the Australian government, who will facilitate the vaccination program for Fijian athletes. A few Team Fiji athletes and officials were at Tomi Hospital this morning to get their second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
We've made this arrangement, so we made the arrangement first for the first jab, and now we just want to make sure that everyone gets the second jab so that it will be a lot safer for us when we're traveling as well as when we get to Japan.
We are very, very pleased that this has been organized so well, and we thank Fastenok for all they've done.
The assistance provided by the Fiji Football Association to players couldn't come at a better time for Taitlevu Naitasiri football family. Senibalati Tokalau, father of Wati Tokalau, who is a goalkeeper of the women's team, says the assistance is a blessing, especially for his family. He adds, with the impact of the pandemic filtering down to the villages, the assistance will help sustain them for the time being.
We stay in the village, but like it's helped the family at this time. It's like we're going a hard time now at the village, but this thing will help us, especially in the family.
The records just keep coming for Cristiano Ronaldo. He's only played one match in Euro 2020, but has created two historical moments, achieving the feat today in Portugal's 3-0 win against Hungary. An own goal condemned Germany to their first Euro 2020 defeat, and while world champions France got the upper hand with the 1-0 win and a high for its next match, Germany now have the daunting task of having to face defending champions Portugal next. Now imagine a 30-foot shark swimming around your 23-foot fishing boat. What do you do? Hope it's a friendly one? Well, what sounds like a scene from Jaws actually played out in real life. Details of that in Weird and Wonderful after the break. But for now, that's it from sports this Wednesday night. Good evening.
Mainly fine weather, apart from cloudy conditions over the eastern and northern parts of the group. Moderate to fresh and gusty easterly winds were experienced over the country. In the west, fine apart from isolated afternoon showers, cool at night. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, cloudy periods with some showers. In the north, cloudy periods with some showers and isolated thunderstorms possible. At sea, easterly winds 15 to 20 knots, moderate to rough seas. The next high tide will be at 11 minutes past 11 tonight, with low tide at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Sunrise will be at 6:39. For tomorrow, cloudy with some showers over Vanua Levu, Taviuni, Lau and Lomaiviti group, Kandavu and the interior and eastern parts of Viti Levu. Isolated thunderstorms possible. The outlook for Thursday, similar conditions will prevail. In Fijian Pulse tonight, we ask, do you believe the misinformation regarding the COVID-19 vaccine?
All these people, these rumors about this vaccine thing have to just stop, and all these people who against this MOH thing have to just let the Ministry of Health do their work.
I'm happy to give the vaccine, and I want to take another one. And the people was talking outside that was not good. The vaccine is not good.
Same, huh? No, I don't believe in hearsay.
You have a own right to right for the vaccine, and you should not believe what others say. You believe in yourself.
And recapping our main stories, COVID cases shock Corovo residents. Landowners approve Coral Coast quarantine facilities, and quarantine requirements for domestic movement. For these stories and others, tune in to our sister radio station, Gold FM. To our poll question this week, we are asking, do you prefer online shopping during this pandemic? Visit our FBC News website to answer. And remember to send us newsworthy pictures and videos. Email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via our various social media accounts. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll be back again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Modemanda.